Hello, how are folks doing today? Give a round of applause for yourselves for showing up, being here early. I know it's an early day, early Tuesday. My name is Nisi Parker. I'm the Youth Engagement Manager at Youth Prize. I get to work very closely with those guys, and they're pretty good people. I do want to read the following land acknowledgement, if you guys will. So give me a second. St. Paul stands on the ancestral, traditional, and contemporary Dakota homelands. As we consider that the many legacies of violence, displacement, migration, and settlement that has brought us to current day, we commit to understanding, respecting, supporting, and advocating for Indigenous people and for this land. Let this land acknowledgement be more than a reminder. Let it be a marker in time of dedicating ourselves to be better and do better. Through this land acknowledgement, let us lead to make changes which respect history. There you go. I like claps. So the 2023 legislative session created unprecedented funding and opportunities for Minnesota children's youth and families. Today we are here to celebrate key legislative victories and to honor the public servants and partners whose tenacity helped make these victories possible. Thank you again for everyone for attending and introducing Marcus Pope, the president of Youth Prize.
As someone who spent over 20 years working with and on behalf of young people, advocating for policy and system changes, I can tell you that this past legislative session was thrilling to watch. There's so much that we accomplished and need to celebrate, and I'm just glad you're with us this morning to celebrate some key victories. We won't be able to celebrate everything that happened and occurred during the session, but I'd love for everybody to just stand and give a round of applause to the lawmakers, advocates, and friends who fought tirelessly for young people. This truly was an unprecedented session for children, youth, and families in Minnesota. We're good. I'm trying to keep us on schedule. So we'll take time today to celebrate, but we know the work isn't done. Youth Prize was a recipient of 4 major allocations that will make a huge difference for young people, and we'll talk more about that today, and we'll also honor some folks who were huge champions for making it happen. So we have a lot of work to do to implement these reforms. But we also need to make sure we're staying committed to addressing the nation-leading inequities we have in our community and throughout Minnesota. So with that, I want to thank you all for coming and just thank you for your commitment to young people and hope that we keep pressing forward to make a difference for young people throughout Minnesota. Thank you. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Nisi.
Alrighty. I swear by the time I'm done with this, my knees are going to be like titanium. Great. So next I want to introduce Erin Martin with Youth Prize, and she's going to be speaking a bit about the Minnesota K-12 education tax credit. Shout out to Matt too.
Thank you, Nisi. I'm Erin Martin. I'm the director of Minnesota After School Advance, which is a joint initiative between Youth Prize and the Venn Foundation. I've spent the better part of the last decade of my career in education and youth development, primarily working with Minnesota's most underserved families. During this time, I've seen just how important it is for our state's young people to have access to high-quality academic enrichment and other out-of-school time programming. Never has this been truer than the last 3.5 years, where we've seen resources grow increasingly difficult to come by and watched learning loss among students post-pandemic skyrocket. In fact, in 2022, Minnesota's math and reading test scores hit their lowest level in decades. Students in high poverty districts had higher learning loss according to the National Bureau of Economic Research, and we're experiencing since that time K-shaped recovery post-pandemic. More affluent students who are able to access services like tutoring are on track to recover lost learning, with lower income students being left behind. That means that after-school programs like tutoring and access to computers are not just luxuries anymore, they're necessities. Minnesota After School Advance works with families in over 200 cities and serves families in 70 of the 87 counties in Minnesota to help them utilize the Minnesota K-12 education tax credit to pay for the cost of these types of educational, fine arts, and performing arts out-of-school time programming, driver's ed, and computer hardware. Over the past 3 years, we've seen an increase in demand of 3,500%. That's a huge increase in demand, 3,500%. Of families who are looking to access Minnesota After School Advanced programming. We've leveraged this tax credit to help families access nearly 60,000 hours of tutoring last year alone. And so this tax credit really has become one of the best tools that our state has for getting students caught up academically. However, prior to this legislative session, the tax credit hadn't been changed in 25 years. Which is why I'm so excited to be here today celebrating the work that was done here at MAA and to celebrate the policy changes that we enacted this session, which is the result of 5 years of hard work led by Youth Prize and the Venn Foundation. With these changes comes even greater resources and unprecedented appropriations that benefit young people across the state. I'm grateful to all the individuals who worked so hard to help us finally get this legislation passed. Thanks to our partners across the state, our families, service providers, and legislators, families who make $70,000 or less now have access to up to $1,500 per eligible child per year. Thank you. To help them pay for these programs of their choice to help students learn and grow in new ways. This legislation also made key changes that support simplifying how families can determine their eligibility, which is no small feat. I want to highlight, changing that. My team knows it's really difficult for families to navigate a daunting maze of determining how they might qualify, what income types qualify for the credit. So making it easier to calculate by adjusting that has been really beneficial. And we also changed it to index to inflation, so ensuring we don't end up with a quarter-century-old income limit ever again. In addition to supporting Minnesota students and families, this bill will also have a significant impact on the network of nonprofit organizations and business owners across the state that we work with, many of whom are Black and Brown owned and providing culturally relevant resources, finding new and creative ways to deliver their services to those who need it most. But with triple the number of families now eligible across the state, we still have a lot of work to do to rise to the occasion. As MAA continues to assess how we intend to leverage these important updates to engage even more families, youth, and service providers across the state, we need folks like you who believe in the power of the work that we are doing. We need more philanthropists who believe in this innovative model to help us unlock these resources for communities across the state so we can continue to support Minnesota's low-income families and youth in getting access to academic enrichment programs they want and need. So with that, I'm excited to welcome Jeff Oakes to the stage. Jeff is the CEO of the Venn Foundation, and as a key partner in this work, Jeff has been integral to the success of the program and to seeing that this legislation was passed this year. We're honored to have him as a partner. So please welcome Jeff.
Thank you, Erin. When I first became aware of the Minnesota K-12 education tax credit over 15 years ago, I was serving as the founding executive director of Breakthrough Twin Cities, which is a well-regarded educational enrichment, college access, and teacher training program. And as everyone who works in this sector knows, resources are hard to come by. So, gonna have to go. The wind is the variable. So when I learned about this tax credit and the related assignment process, I was astonished by its potential. Imagine a world in which every eligible child had $1,000 at the time of purchasing power to take to the market to purchase services like tutoring, driver's ed, and other things that they need in their enrichment. And imagine they could do that each year. At the time, it was estimated to be over $250 million of commitment by the state each year to our youth. Imagine what that could do for a sector that is generally starved for resources. And so in 2009, captivated by this resource, Breakthrough piloted this concept of advancing the tax credit successfully with one student and one family. But we also very quickly realized that this idea and this opportunity was too big. It was too systemic for any one service provider to attempt to do on their own. And so Breakthrough at the time did not continue that program. Fast forward to 2017, where now as the CEO of Venn Foundation, I approached Marcus Pope and Youth Prize with the concept for what's now called Minnesota After School Advance. With Youth Prize's statewide network, with their powerful policy arm and agenda, and with their proven experience in repeatedly helping tap into government resources on behalf of youth and youth-serving organizations, they have been an ideal partner to take the leadership of the Minnesota After School Advance program, and it's been a joy to work with them over the last 5 years. And now, with these policy changes enacted this last session, which we're celebrating today, the potential of this tax credit has only multiplied. Not only has the credit increased to $1,500 per eligible child per year, but the income limit increase, as Aaron mentioned, has tripled the eligibility. And this equates now to a potential resource pool of $750 million per year statewide if we can tap it. It's incredible. And that commitment is something that I think only Minnesota is doing in the nation today. And that's a really powerful commitment to youth. But we still have work to do. As Aaron mentioned, we need more philanthropists. Philanthropists like Bush Foundation and Thrive and Charitable, who can think differently and see the power of a model that recycles their charitable capital over and over again, unleashing up to 10 times the impact and access that a traditional grant and scholarship model can unleash. And we need the partnership of the state's Department of Revenue and Education to build the administrative systems that we need to operate this at scale. Thanks to the policy changes that were enacted this session, the conditions are ripe for change, for systemic change. And the visions and the steps that we need to take to get there have never been clearer. So it's now up to us to work together to seize the moment and make that vision a reality. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Jeff. As Jeff said, the conditions are ripe for systemic change with the K-12 education tax credit, and the success of these changes relies on us working together to seize the moment, which is why I'm so excited to invite Jeff back to the stage along with our other partner, Sri Ganti. Sri and Jeff have been so integral in making sure that that we can continue to make this vision a reality. So I'd like to take this opportunity to honor first you, Jeff, in recognition of your support and leadership in championing the Minnesota K-12 education tax credit. And we'd also like to thank our other partner, Sri Ganti, owner of Mathnasium in Chanhassen in Minnetonka. As one of our first MAA partners, Sri has testified, signed letters of support, and advocated on behalf of MAA families several times over the last few years, both in person and virtually. I don't know if you've ever testified virtually, but it is really an exciting opportunity that we had to bring Sri in to help us share real stories, real challenges that families are facing across the state, as well as real hope for the future that young people and their families have. And so thank you so much, Sri, for your ongoing support and advocacy in championing the Minnesota K-12 education tax credit. Yeah, great.
Morning.
I'll take this opportunity to just thank you all. Like it's been said here, it's not just one person's thing. It is a systemic change that we are after. And we get the joy as a service provider to be able to reach the families and actually work with the families that benefit. So it's very enriching for us to be able to reach families that may not have otherwise been able to access services like us. And like we know, it makes a big difference. And so we thank you, the lawmakers and Venn Foundation and Youth Prize for championing this and to be able to make this happen for our youth. As somebody who's not grown up here, I appreciate what we're able to provide to the families here. Thank you.
Thank you again, Jeff and Sri. Next, I'd like to invite Representative Matt Norris and Representative Aisha Gomez to the stage. to take a moment. Over the past several years, we've had many legislators who have advocated for and co-authored this bill. And Matt and Aisha were critical to getting this passed in 2023. So first up, I would like to take a moment to thank Representative Gomez for her leadership as the chair of the Tax Committee in championing this credit and putting Minnesota youth first. We're honored to have your support to ensure Minnesota's youth have access to the supports they need to thrive. Next up, I'm going to thank Representative Matt Norris as chief author of the Minnesota K-12 Education Tax Credit and vice chair of the House Tax Committee, and of course your role as the former director of Minnesota After School Advance. We honor and thank you for your leadership in authoring and ensuring the passage of this bill and in supporting Minnesota school-age children with getting access to the out-of-school time programs they need to thrive. I'll try and not lose my things this time.
We love you, Matt.
All right. Good morning, everybody. I'm Representative Matt Norris. I have the privilege of representing Blaine and Lexington in the Minnesota House. I also have the privilege of serving as the vice chair of the Tax Committee, but most importantly for today, I'm a proud Youth Prize alum. Jeff Oakes came to me about 5 years ago, and we had a meeting at Jeff's favorite coffee shop, the Dunn Brothers on University. Fortunately, he didn't give it enough business because it eventually closed. But we sat down, and he told me about this idea. And he's like, "Have you heard about this tax credit?" And I said, "No, and tell me more." And so he talked about how it can help families with tutoring and paying for driver's ed and music programs and computer hardware and software, and how he felt like it was a really untapped opportunity to help those lower income families in our state get access to those critical opportunities. And I was sold, and I said, "Well, Jeff, this seems too good to be true. What's the catch?" He's like, "Well, problem is, you can only qualify if you make $33,500 or less." And that hasn't changed in 20 years at the time. And, I thought about it, and I said, "Well, I'd love for it to be more. There's certainly a need for it to be higher, but I think we can work with that." And so we did. We started. We started with a pilot down in Northfield, and we worked the first year with 5 students from 3 families, and spent a lot of time thinking about how we could make those numbers seem as big as possible and spin it as well as we could. But I think in the early years, it was about doing the hard work of building trust in the community, getting people to understand the benefit of the tax credit. And then we really saw the true benefit of it during the pandemic, when so many families were in such desperate need. And we first used it to help pay for computers, to get Chromebooks in the hands of students who were trying to rapidly shift to distance learning. And then we saw, because of the distance learning, so many students falling behind and parents being worried about the academic performance of their students. And so we were able to team up with folks like Shri and get these students access to tutoring. And then over time, we've seen the use of it grow to the things like the driver's ed and the music lessons. And we talk a lot about gaps in our state, and rightfully so, because there are some really significant and pernicious gaps that we've been trying to solve in terms of academic performance. And we know from the research that a lot of those gaps actually open up during the out-of-school time. And I think this tax credit can be one of the best tools to help close those gaps. Because it says to our lower income families that you deserve to have those same opportunities, to send your kids to the same tutoring, to get the same type of computer hardware, to have the same type of music and enrichment opportunities for your student that our more affluent students have access to. And that's what fairness, that's what equity really looks like. So I am thrilled that we were able this year to do some really groundbreaking work with this tax credit. We were able to extend it up to $70,000 from that $33,500 threshold. We were able to increase the credit from $1,000 to $1,500. We know that everything costs more these days, and so it allows those students to get access to more resources. And I want to just thank everybody who helped to make it possible along the way. Jeff for planting that idea, Marcus and the Youth Prize team for coming along with Jeff and bringing me on board to help build it and help sell this at the Capitol. Folks like Shri and so many parents who testified along the way. Jeff and Aaron were talking about beforehand about home renovation projects. And I think a lot of times policy making and advocacy is like, trying to knock down a brick wall. Like it starts with, taking some swings with that sledgehammer. And those initial swings maybe make a small dent, but you don't see the progress initially. And you keep swinging and you keep swinging. And 5 years later, the ball finally comes through and you achieve the types of things that we were able to achieve this year. I joke that I didn't think it was going to take me becoming vice chair of the tax committee to finally get this done, but whatever it takes. And I'd be remiss if I didn't extend a huge amount of gratitude to the chair of our tax committee, Chair Aisha Gomez. She was, such a joy to work with all session, but one of the things that I really valued the most was you really took the time to understand what was important to your members and to talk with me about the issues that were important to me and understand the importance of this tax credit and how we've been leveraging it to help so many families, and you helped make that a priority, and we're able to get that across the finish line in what were some at times tough conference committee negotiations, but I'm just thankful to the chair and so many other legislators who helped to make this possible as well. So there's a lot to celebrate, but now it's time to get to work. And there's so many new families who are newly eligible. We got to spread the word. We got to leverage this to the max and continue closing those gaps and making sure Minnesota is a place where every young person, regardless of their income level, can thrive. So thank you, everybody.
So before we wrap up, I would be remiss if I didn't take just a moment to honor those folks who were unable to join us today. Senator Ann Rest, who's chair of the Senate Tax Committee, and Senator Mary Kunish, who is the chief author of the bill in the House, along with the numerous co-authors who signed on to this bill. We're really grateful to have their support as well, and really just want to take a moment to recognize them too. So with that, though, I'll pass it back to Nisi to talk a little bit about some of the other bills today. Thank you.
Hello. All right, so next up, I would like to invite Quincy Poe, looking all great and amazing over there, super fly every time. He's going to talk about the homeless youth stipend pilot bill. Give him a round of applause. Me and Quincy go way back, north side, okay?
Good morning. Is it still the morning time? Okay, we got to make sure, Good morning. I'm dressed up because I was just giving a keynote over at Legislating, and that was a very exciting time. And so I don't have a speech prepared for y'all, but speaking towards the youth stipend pilot that we're engaging in, and we're going to do 3 cohorts in Minnesota. Something that was important, why this was important to me, is because I was also a former young person who experienced homelessness in Minnesota. And so being able to find a way to give power back to those youth in partnership with those youth, and not tokenizing those youth, right, was a different way of doing it. And that's what we did this session, is really, we're the listeners, we're the containers, as we found ways to empower young people to be the decision makers, which was often at times challenging for some of our partners and sometimes challenging for us, right? Because we have to look at our biases and look at the moment that we're in and think about where we want to go. And so this session, I had the opportunity to partner with a lot of our young people, and many of them came to testify, and have the opportunity to sit back and listen. And something I thought about is that our work doesn't just stop at the service or the resource with young people. It continues. Our journeys with them continue because they need us, but I think more importantly, we need them in this work. And often we're asking each other, or we're asking other young people, how do we bring young people a part of this? We have to be intentional about what that partnership looks like, what racial equity looks like in this work, and where we want to move in this work. And so something that I had the opportunity to reflect on as we were partnering with young people And I think that we're looking forward to continuing this work as we grow our numbers of youth in the OYN at Youth Prize. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Christy Snyder. I work with Quincy Poe on the Twin Cities Opportunity Youth Network. We punk. So we are so pleased to have brought this as a coalition of many different young people and olds together to get $5.4 million from the state of Minnesota to do a pilot for the homeless youth stipend pilot, to put cash directly into the hands of young people. And so this is revolutionary. It will not count as income. And this is, as we like to say, a pilot is only good if it comes to scale. And so we are not stopping with this pilot that will be in Hennepin and St. Louis County, both in the Duluth proper area and rural St. Louis County. So we'll have all three geographies kind of covered, and with our eyes to bring this tool in the toolkit to get to have young people get to stability for the entire state. So not thinking about what gets to have young people save lives, but to getting to thriving lives. And so that's what we're really looking forward towards. We know that in the last homeless count that was done in January in Hennepin County, young people were living unsheltered at higher rates than ever before, and any other age demographic. And so we know that we need to think of different solutions so that young people can go to school, they can work full time, and not living in traps of subsidized housing. Because in subsidized housing, although it's wonderful to have a roof over your head, you cannot work full time, you cannot go to school full time, and you are stuck. And so giving young people direct cash gets them into housing opportunities that get young people to be able to go to school full time, be able to work full time, and start to build a life that gets them into adulthood and to thriving members of our civic society. And we had two representatives, Representative Kozlowski, who can't be here today, and Senator McEwen, both from the Duluth area, that were tireless champions of this work. There is nothing harder than to imagine giving young people cash without strings. And there is youth-directed services that come along with it that youth design and make happen. But we are saying young people actually know what they need, and they deserve to figure out what that looks like. Because we know that middle class and upper class people give their young people cash all the time. That's how they make it. And so this is what we're doing as a society. We're wrapping our hands around young people and saying, you're worth it. And so that's what we're doing. And we're not stopping with the pilot. So buckle up, everyone.
I know we're at time, but I also just want to throw out a thank you to Shep, because you were just phenomenal and you helped us really move the needle forward. And then also say it's not about power over youth, right? It's about power with youth.
Kind of late that was my cue to come back up. Next up, I would like to introduce Marco Syme with World Youth Connect. Did I say your name right? Marco Syme. Yeah. That's cool. That's like 007 type. He's going to be talking about Pan-African Economic Development Fund.
All right. Thank you, everybody. My name is Marco Syme. I'm a junior right now in college, and I'm also World Youth Connect's co-president. Thank you. So, as a child of two immigrant parents, I learned early on in life that hard work and dedication will allow me to achieve anything I put my mind into. Both my parents were born and raised in Ethiopia and came to the United States in their early 20s, not knowing much about the culture, the language, anything about, you could think about America. They didn't know much of it. After 20 years, they've now grown and built a coffee shop in New Brighton that they've been able to hold and serve the community and prosper for that long. Being a part of that coffee shop and growing with it, I've seen my mom work countless hours and days, and it showed me that hard work and dedication will get you anything you're looking for. And that's why it's one of my core values. Another one of my core values is also family. I grew up with family in my life throughout everything. We've made sure to keep our family close, the ones that I've been able to come over to Ethiopia, and it's been extremely impactful for me. And that's why I try and keep that family environment in World Youth Connect and create an inclusive environment for everybody. We make sure that everybody is involved in World Youth Connect through different cultural activities and different ways that you can be in the culture. World Youth Connect has also focused on creating different programs like community conversations to knock down stigmas in the African society. Washington Mandela Fellows have also been a very key realm of that I've grown into, because we have grown and did a community conversation with them that has been able to knock down the stigmas through them. All right, thank you. Forgot. Now I'll be introducing. Sorry, I didn't get your name.
Good morning. It still is morning. My name is Woki Freeman. I serve as the Senior Operations Officer for Youth Prize, and I am excited to be here today celebrating with all of you all the amazing accomplishments that we were able to see from our legislature this year. So the Pan-African Economic Development Fund, this is something that Youth Prize has partnered with Kajug on for several years, and has been fortunate to have appropriations to support young people in workforce development. And as we were talking about all of the opportunities for this biennium that we just, the session that just passed, I had a question for our team, because in the past, the Pan-African Workforce Development Fund has primarily supported young people who are of East African descent. And I asked the question, okay, so, this has actually been an opportunity for East African youth for a number of years. Have we thought about how we can have an impact on Pan-African youth from around the continent of Africa? And so, with support of our team at Youth Prize, that was something that we spoke with our partners about, and it was embraced, and I was extremely excited to see that. My family originally is from Liberia, and so I will say this was a bit personal to me as well. And my family moved to Minnesota in 1990 as a result of the Civil War, and so I was in high school. I was a junior in high school at that time, and this would have been a wonderful opportunity to take advantage of at that time, to get an opportunity for that. And so with that, we were proud to have an appropriation of $6 million over the biennium in partnership with Kajug. And so I know that our honorees are not here at this time, but we do want to recognize the legislators who made this happen. So the chief author in the House was Representative Samakap Hussein. So let's give him a round of applause. And Senator Fong Hao from the Senate, the Assistant Majority Leader and Chair of the Jobs and Economic Development Committee. And so we just want to recognize all of their accomplishments in making this happen. Thank you.
Okay. Next up, I would like to bring Ikram Kaliso to the stage to talk a bit about MENA Kids. You look all cool and stuff. Y'all check that out. That's fashion. Yeah.
we're throwing Munir under the bus. Munir Ramos Kocher from the Department of Financial Empowerment from St. Paul. He was supposed to be here, but he's sick. So many kids started with the city of St. Paul, imagining college bound. And so I'm going to have Ikram talk a little bit about College Bound St. Paul and what it imagines that young people, every baby born, being whispered the opportunity to say, you get to go to college, you'll get something bigger in your life. So I'm going to have Ikram, who actually is the mastermind behind all of the technical and adaptive challenges of College Bound St. Paul. She has figured out all of the different ways that we can figure out how every family can get their baby bond. So I'm going to have Ikram say a couple words about what it means for the families of St. Paul.
Thank you, Christy. So my name is Ikram Khaliso, and I am with the Office of Financial Empowerment at the City of St. Paul, and I serve as program manager for College Bound St. Paul, which is a college savings account program that we launched in 2020, basically telling all of our babies that we believe in them and that they can achieve their greatest dreams and aspirations, and that we're coming together as a community along the way to help them reach those dreams. So with College Bound St. Paul, within the first 4 years, we've been able to enroll over 11,200 babies. We have almost $2 million in savings so far, which includes the seed deposits that we provide, as well as program bonuses, and also the family contributions. And our largest family account is a little over 7,000 now. So we're starting to see families are also starting to engage with the account. And why are college savings account programs important? Research tells us that for any child that's from lower to moderate income households, if they have just between $1 and $499, that they're 3 times more likely to go to college and 4 times more likely to graduate. So what that tells us is that it's not about the amount, it's about the mindset, and it's about telling our young ones that we believe in them, and coming together as a community from cross-sector organizations to walk that path alongside. And there's also the social emotional development for both parents and also the children. And the other thing about college savings accounts is that they're a way to help families connect to other resources related to their family's financial health, as well as their child's well-being. So there's a lot of focus on that as well. So we want to be able to bring this program to scale so that all of the children in Minnesota can take advantage of this. As we table at events in the community, we always get questions around, well, I live in Minneapolis, I live in Shakopee, I live in Blaine. Can my family take part? And so it's disheartening to say, not right now, but we're working on it. And so eventually, through the planning grants that we'll be able to give out to a number of communities in Minnesota, we'll be able to help scale this program to statewide in the future. And so we're looking forward to that. So looking forward to working with all of you as advocates as we move that work forward. Thank you.
Wasn't she amazing? And she just didn't even know she had to do that. So again, I'm Christy Snyder, and because Representative Matt Norris got elected, which I'm still sour about, you all seem to like him, but I'm still mad. But the mini kids, we were trying to go statewide this last session, and we came up short this session, and we got $500,000, which we are going to use the heck out of. And we're building an infrastructure so that we can go in 2025 to go statewide. And you might think that this is a big dream, but we would be the 13th state that would do it. So we would not be trailblazers here. Most states that are doing this, like Indiana, North Dakota, are already doing this. So this is where we would be in good company in bipartisan states that already invest in their babies. And so we will be building out a cohort with an urban, rural, small city or suburban and tribal nation that will be joining us in a cohort to really think about the infrastructure and how we're going to go for it. And we're going to need all of your help because we're going to go out in 2025 because our babies deserve it. And it's not just about college. It's about post-secondary, right? It's about career training, apprenticeship. It's about all of those different opportunities to really think about how we change the mindset early on. So we are so appreciative of Senator Bolden and Representative Carly Katiza-Motun, who were really at the forefront of thinking about this, and also Representative Pinto, who is from St. Paul, who really thought deeply about this and moving this forward. So more to come. We're going to need all of you. It's going to be a big fight. Thanks so much.
Okay, and for our final reflections, I would like to introduce one of my bosses, Noah Yahashalet. Shut up. I would like to introduce him to the stage. You can take it, man. Yeah, she didn't get her own. Yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is Grace Van Borst and I'm a senior at Northfield High School.
And I'm Noah Yohalichet and I'm a senior at the Math and Science Academy in Woodbury. Oh yeah, and I'm your boss too.
We wanted to start by thanking Youth Prize for giving us time to speak today, and also to all of you for your commitment and dedication to youth this past legislative session.
Yeah. So there's this quote that goes, if you're not at the table, you're probably on the menu. And that quote holds true for youth all across Minnesota, because youth deserve a seat at the decision-making table, and youth deserve to be heard and valued.
So as youth and as representatives of the Minnesota Youth Council, we regularly encounter youth-focused legislation that doesn't meet the needs and aspirations of youth. And more often than not, this is because youth aren't actively engaged in the conversations that impact them and are instead actively excluded from decision-making rooms.
However, our government doesn't need to run that way. Effectively serving youth starts with improving the political representation of our youth. For the upcoming session, we will be working to transform our political climate for youth by establishing the Minnesota Youth Council as an advisory council, requiring that all school districts across the state have at least 2 voting student members on their board, and requiring that, and lowering the voting age in municipal elections to 16 years old, as well as lowering the candidacy age across the state to 18 years old, because it's 21 for no reason. Collectively, these changes will empower us young people all across Minnesota to have a greater say in shaping the policies and laws that affect our lives.
So as we look forward to the opportunities that the next legislative session brings, we are excited about the potential to collaborate on and inspire positive change with you all. We urge you to not only support these legislative bills, but to also engage with youth in your own community on the work and policy issues.
Absolutely. Together we can build a future where the voices of youth are not only heard, but actively shape the decisions that impact our lives. Thank you for your dedication to youth, and let's get started.
To those guys, shout out to those guys. I think it's very important as Youth Prize that we practice what we preach and that we walk what we talk. It's important for us to have young people on our board. It's important for us to have young people on our staff as grantees, as contracted partners, and in all different types of ways that are important. I say this phrase all the time. I say, we are not a hand trying to help young people up. We are joining hands with young people to lift us all up. And I think that's right, yeah. I ain't getting no claps all day, so I'm with it. I do want to give a shout out to Cookie Cart. They've been a partner with us for a long time. Please take some of those home, take some food home, take some water home, and make sure she gets some cookies too. Okay, perfect. And then I also want to just give a shout out to all of you all for showing up. And I'm one of those radical government types folks. I get mad at America a lot, so you guys give me a lot of hope. And you guys give me a lot of things to look forward to in terms of policy change and making sustained outcomes for young people. So shout out to y'all for showing up. You know what I mean? And have a good night.